You'll remember Andy Bell, I just mentioned him a minute ago, whose clever mnemonic device involving those decks of cards, which is so fascinating to watch. Well, Pavio was very pioneering that he proposed a dual coding hypothesis that uses verbal coding and imagery. And in that context, it's easier to remember concrete nouns. And within the context of these experiments, that first peg word is important. If you'll indulge me just below, I want to try to illustrate what's meant by this dual coding hypothesis, in which we have both verbal coding and imagery, and also describe what I mean by CC and CA. So if I were remembering or attempting to recall word pairs like book, table, well, book and table relate to each other, and they're both concrete, and my rate of remembering might be 11.4 over 20. So that's a higher degree. Since they're both concrete and they're imaginable, I can remember them together, particularly because they interact, a book and a table. Now, immediately beneath that, you have a concrete word that precedes an abstract word, chair and justice. That works a little bit better than freedom and dress, as you can see, in which an abstract precedes a concrete. And the suggestion is that that first peg word is kind of important there, that I can imagine maybe the pair of chair and justice, thinking of maybe a Supreme Court justice in his or her chair, whereas freedom and dress is a little bit more fleeting. But you'll see the worst performing condition. And what those numbers mean is, say, the number of words recalled out of 20, whereas 11.4 out of 20 is much higher than 6. But beauty and truth, they're both abstract. They're a little bit hard to relate to. You'd have to think of something more concrete that are related to it, and therefore it's harder to remember. But book and table, on the other hand, they can interact. They have some property together in which I'm imagining and verbally encoding, and can recall it a lot better later. Now, this may seem really rudimentary, but it for its time, and this is going back 50 years with Gordon Bauer, they were rather significant experiments insofar that this was so, I'm straining to think of the word, repeatable. These experiments produce very reliable results.